Paranormal Tuesday. See you on the other side live here. This is Mike, and I'm with my partner in true crime and paranormal.
Yes. See
Wendy.
you on the other side of the monitor
Yes, that's right.
tonight.
So hope everybody's having a fine Paranormal Tuesday. This, I didn't know anything about the comet before people started putting pictures up everywhere.
What?
I've been
How
avoiding.
could you escape it?
I've been avoiding the
Oh.
news.
Okay, that's fair.
It seems like the news is never going to be something I'm enjoying. So I haven't been watching the news.
Yeah.
So until I started seeing people were putting pictures up, I thought it was like an Instagram filter at first.
That's hilarious.
Right? I'm like, what is this about? So, Night of the Comet. I mean, now it's the summer of the comet, and we've got this NEOWISE character going on, and everybody's been taking pictures, and it's visible. Where is it visible, Wendy?
It's visible if you look. The easiest way to find it is just to look up at the sky, find the Big Dipper, and then it's below the Big Dipper. So the west, I guess it's like the sort of northwestern, if you look in that general direction, just after dark, around like 10 o'clock or so. It's about dark enough to be able to see. And then you can see it for a good couple hours.
Okay.
But depending on how much light there is surrounding you, it's not always easy to see. So you we could see it actually from our house, which is in, Madison. There's a pretty good amount of light around here. So I was surprised. Yeah. And even just my neighbors have their, porch lights on and whatnot. But we went out and I could, it was not easy to see, but as I scanned the sky kind of left to right, you could just like with my peripheral, I could see a little comet shaped item below the Big Dipper. So then I took my phone out and we got the camera out and did a little bit of not time lapse, but leave the shutter open for a while.
Sure.
And then it just appears magically in your camera.
Okay.
So.
It sounds like fun. Well, so I was not paying attention to NEOWISE, and it looks like it was just discovered this year.
Well, yeah. I mean, just a few months ago, in fact.
March 27th, 2020, astronomers using the Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer. So then if you use the acronym
and
WISE.
It's, Near Earth Object. Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer. So hence the name NEOWISE, because in the long-standing tradition of naming comets, it's whoever first spots it and gets written record of it is the person who gets named after. So since this was kind of a system that spotted it first, it was named after that system. So I want to know if that system spots another comet, is there going to be like another NEOWISE?
Yeah.
Or are they going to have to get clever with their naming?
Right. I feel like they need to be a little bit more like, because I guess you name it after the discoverer, right? I mean,
it's just a tradition, yeah.
Right, Halley's Comet, Hale-Bopp. I mean, it looks like Hale-Bopp was the last one. The Hale-Bopp Comet was the last one that we could just look up in the sky and see with our naked eyes.
And do you remember being able to see that, Mike?
I think I do.
Because apparently it was visible for a long, over a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for Scott and I were talking about it, and I'm thinking why do I not remember? I'm sure I went out and looked at it, but I just I didn't have the fancy cameras and technology to be able to capture pictures of it like we do now. So,
well, I feel like Hale-Bopp came out in 1997. And 1997 was a crazy year because I turned 21 that year, and the summertime when I was looking at a comet or whatever.
Your eyes might have been going a different direction.
Yeah, I was partying a lot, and
college.
Right, and we had that house, that sublet with the dirt basement and everything. I just mean
spooky old house.
That particular year, would have been one where there was just a lot going on in my life. But I do remember looking up and seeing the comet. So I do remember seeing in my
Okay.
lifetime seeing a comet, and I think, and it was when I was an adult with the naked eye. And I remember when I was younger, I believe my father brought home the telescope from school because he was a high school science
Oh,
teacher,
that's cool.
and so he could bring him the telescope. And
Yeah.
I think he taught different classes: chemistry, earth science, food science, and then astronomy at some point. And so he was able to bring home the telescope, and we looked at it.
That's
Yes.
lucky. Because it's funny because I don't know, it's not that exciting. It's an object in the sky, like the moon. You go out and you spot it, but it's still, there's something really exciting about seeing something unique like that is a rare thing. It's only going to be here for
Right.
another
It's
couple weeks, or it's only going to be within our view for another couple weeks until 6,800 years from now or whatever. But it really kind of gets you thinking when you're out there staring into the void and you see this cool looking thing. It's different from everything else in the sky, and it's traveling 40 miles per second,
Yeah, it's going pretty fast.
and it's like it's a 3 miles in diameter. The main like core of it is, and then I guess the tail is like 1,000,000 kilometers or something.
Well, what I think is
It's
what I
really
think is
long.
interesting is they just discovered on March 23rd or March 27th or whatever, and
Yeah.
like if they wouldn't have discovered it, we'd have seen it. And we're not used to astronomers just finding shit in space. I mean, we're not used to like us.
What do you
I'm
mean?
sorry, like humans seeing it before astronomers do. You know what I mean? Like if they would have missed.
Well,
if
I
they
mean,
would
the
have missed
humans
it,
wouldn't have seen it before astronomers,
right?
though.
Probably. But I'm saying if they didn't have the NEOWISE up there, we might have just caught it like, hey, there's a comet, which
I mean, it just would have been found
Later.
later, April or something like that, by a telescope, probably. I would imagine, but yeah,
So
I just couldn't believe that March was the first time that it was discovered.
yeah, and then it's already here. Well, real quick shout out to our people hanging out in the live room: Bart, Abby, Mark, Pam, and Sharon.
Hey.
Everybody gets an oofda
Oh my
today,
gosh.
so thank you for coming to Paranormal
Cheers.
Tuesday.
Oofda.
And Wendy, we should look at some of the pictures that you and Scott took when you were out there
Yeah.
looking at the comet. So
So
that's how
that one is from our balcony.
Yeah, so that's how it looks. So you can see NEOWISE just from your balcony. And that's what
And I took these with my phone.
I mean. I think that's what makes it exciting. It's just you can see it's exciting. You can see like something in space from your. I mean, obviously we're looking at
Right.
everything from space, but it just seems that everything seems so fixed and so far away that when something new happens, that's kind of what I was getting at with the, we're just not used to like new stuff popping up. Like, hey, guess what?
Yeah.
There is something that you're able to see. We didn't even know about it until after the world had stopped.
Right. And it's not interstellar. It is from our solar system. So, I mean, that means,
It's
I
actually
mean,
from Illinois, and I blame them for this.
I guess what I'm saying is that, like, its orbit is around the sun, the same
Right.
as our orbit is, right? So it's not like it came from another galaxy or something. Like it's here with us.
No, but if it's here with us, like, and it's every 4,400 to 6,700 years, so obviously they don't even know
Yeah.
exactly. So
Right.
that's from a little more powerful of a camera, and then
Right.
okay, so you and Scott were taking pictures, and then
And
there's a little
we went out to a park that was a little further from the city, so
Okay.
these were a little easier to get.
And what I'm interested in is right here. Okay, so if you're looking at the picture, and you look at NEOWISE, it's hard to call it NEOWISE. It's such a weird. It's like the ungainly
That is
name.
weird.
Like at least if you're saying
Yeah.
you're looking at Halley's Comet, or
Yeah, not an acronym.
yeah, not an acronym. Like I'm looking at NEOWISE. Then, if you look to the down and to the left, so it's almost like JFK there. When you need to go down and to the left, this is your own Zapruder film here. What's below there? Like,
Well,
what is that?
don't know.
What is
Okay,
that?
that.
Did you just take
That
a
was an
pen?
airplane.
Did you just take a pen and go ding, 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 ding across there? Because that's what it looks like to me.
Well, the cool thing is you can tell. So Scott took that one, and he had the shutter open for like 30 seconds.
Okay.
So that was an airplane, and I got it in a few of my pictures as well. But it's interesting because as you're taking pictures, now that the red dot,
Yeah.
the red streak,
Right.
we could see, like that was, we saw the airplane go by. So we started, you start your shot, and then you're like, oh nah, here comes an airplane. That's gonna ruin the shot. But there were a bunch of other ones that we took, and I'm by no means an experienced astrophotographer, so
Sure.
I'm sure people who are more into this could educate me. But it's fun because you set the camera on the tripod, you set the amount of time for the shutter to be open, and then you sit and wait while it captures.
Does its thing.
Yeah, well, the sensor captures the different lighting and whatever. But so many of the pictures had those streak-like things in them that like we weren't seeing those with the naked eye. So kind of like the comet, where you could barely see it sort of with your naked eye, but just leave the camera open for a few seconds and it appears magically. These things, I don't know if they're just further off, if they're satellites or meteorites or what they are, but it's kind of fun because you just never know what's going to show up in that picture. So
Right. So
with each one, it's different.
okay, so that's not, you weren't seeing like a group of UFOs in the sky. That's an open shutter.
That's one airplane.
One airplane. One
Just
airplane. It
over-
might be a UFO.
It might be UFO,
Yeah,
but no,
that's
it was like
probably
we saw
You saw the
airplane
people
in
and you
sky.
saw the pilot. He waved. He's like, "Hello down there." You saw the lady with her
Well,
kids saying, "Look at those little ants. They're
I
like
mean,
ants."
I actually can tell what an airplane looks like.
All right.
After living on Earth for as long as I have.
All right.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Well, that's no fun.
it was an airplane.
All right.
But yeah, there were other things that we didn't see, and who knows what those were.
Okay.
I mean, if you're coming to study Earth, think about all the people that are out now staring up at the sky.
Right.
Like,
This would be a good time to get your eye on the Earthlings.
Maybe, I don't
Good
know.
time to get your eye on the Earthlings.
I don't know, but
Well, that's exciting. Okay, so when he went to go see the comet, I've been going to bed before it's even dark most of these nights. So
well, it's still visible for at least a couple weeks.
Oh, okay.
So you still have your chance, Mike.
All right, that
as long
sounds
as it's
good.
not cloudy.
That sounds good.
So hope for some clear nights, and you should check it out because it really is cool.
I've been shifting my schedule from late to early. So I've been trying the going to bed, so that's why I've been missing out on the comet fun that everybody's been having.
See, and you had your chance because a few weeks ago it was visible in the early morning hours.
Oh, that could have been me.
But-
I could have been looking at the UFO.
Yeah, like 4 a.m. you could have spotted it,
Okay.
but now it's moving. It's on the move.
It's on the
So it's like it's made its way around the sun and it's going back out to the furthest reaches of our solar system. And so it's whizzing by really quickly.
Okay.
So the window to be able to see it is closing, but although it's getting further away from the sun, it's going to be closer to Earth for a little bit. So I don't know, like I watched a video that NASA put out with all the Q&A about NEOWISE, and they said they weren't sure if it was going to look brighter or dimmer the next few days, but
Okay. Well,
it could be an even better chance.
did the NASA press release, did they talk about U.S. pastor Paul Begley, who sent out a video to his 300,000 YouTube followers a few days ago that NEOWISE means that the end of the world is going to come by September 1st as the probable date? Did they talk about that?
NASA didn't mention that
Okay.
in their informational video.
Okay. So he was looking for signs of the end times.
As you do.
As you do. Well, that's the thing is, though, we're in a weird situation. And whenever something happens that's
Yes, we
completely
got it.
different, like when you can see a different thing in the sky, when your entire life the sky has probably looked the same, or like it's reliable, right? It's reliable for thousands of years. And you see something different, everybody poops a little bit.
Well, yeah.
So this is coming from Paul Begley, and I mean he's got a big YouTube following, so obviously he must be very wise. But comet will reach its closest point to Earth on July 23rd. So really, the next couple of days might be your best chance of seeing the comet. But he was saying that the comet was just the latest thing in the portends of the omens. And this is the thing, over history, and we'll talk about that. People have seen comets as an omen of something changing the Earth. If you can see a comet in the sky, there will be an Earth-changing event coming. And obviously, the Earth-changing event this year, they discovered the comet on March 27th. The Earth-changing event this year would probably be the cancellation of our concerts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so all the Sunspot concerts, this is an omen that the Sunspot concerts are going to be canceled, and they were, and so obviously it came true. No, but you go in, and he's like, the next thing was the Ring of Fire eclipse. Remember, everybody was talking about the Ring of Fire eclipse?
Yes. Such a cool name.
Yeah, right? The Johnny Cash eclipse that happened just, last month.
Yeah.
And so the combination of the plague, the eclipse, and the comet, those are the signs that the end of days is coming. And
so many fun things.
Yes. And actually, it's funny. In the movie End of Days, which is Arnold Schwarzenegger fights the devil, that is the movie where I fought the devil. And it's my greatest battle because I've never taken on the devil.
Nice.
But Arnold Schwarzenegger fights the devil in End of Days. In the beginning of that movie, they see a comet. And that's the Antichrist will be born then. When they see the Vatican, because we've talked about this in the show before, the Vatican has an observatory. And so the Vatican astronomers see they see the comet, and then they write their stuff down in Latin, and everybody starts praying, and it's all very dramatic, and then it becomes a mediocre action film for the next 2 hours. But that's what they see, and what do they call it? They call it God's eyebrow, or comet and
that's interesting. Because I mean, I was reading up on the ancient, what the ancient cultures thought about comets, and one of the things is that they were saying that they would see it as an omen, because it was shaped like a weapon. They thought it looked like a sword, or to some cultures, the tail of the comet gave it the appearance of the head of a woman with long flowing hair behind her.
Okay.
The sorrowful symbol of mourning was understood to mean that the gods had sent the comet to Earth were displeased. Yeah. And the others thought that it looked like a fiery sword blazing across the night sky, a traditional sign of war and death.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. I liked there was one that was the, where'd it go? The ancient Chinese, they described them as long-tailed pheasant stars, or broom stars.
Broom stars, that's interesting.
That's a little nicer. It's not quite so negative.
So in End of Days, they call it the Eye of God, and it's because the comet is over the moon. So the comet forms the eyebrow. Cool. And that's going to show that the End of Days is upon us. And, here's an interesting thing from one of our Patreons, Sharon. I actually know the head of the Vatican Observatory, Brother Guy Consamagno. I'm probably not saying, obviously I'm not saying his name.
That's cool.
And super nice guy, giant geek. Which,
oh my gosh, that's amazing.
That is amazing. So cool story, Sharon.
How do you know him?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
How did you just like call him whenever you're like, hey, head of the, Anyway, there was more to that
She's
story.
Got connections.
She's got connections to the Vatican. I want to have connections to the Vatican. I could use.
And the observatory. They're the ones that.
Tell them to pray for me.
The Vatican Observatory is the one that sees the UFOs, and they see the extraterrestrials coming to contact us.
The idea that the comet is some kind of omen. You go back to it, and remember the Bayou Tapestry? Okay, let's go back, because we're talking about Halley's Comet. So that was the first time I even thought of a comet is a thing that's not in a science fiction movie. A comet's something we can go see. And my father was teaching
Yeah.
astronomy at the time. So it's like, oh, let's check out Halley's Comet, right? And you find out it comes every 75 years. So it's been regular, and people have seen it through time. Mark Twain famously says, I came in with Halley's Comet, it's coming again, and I expect to go out with it. The Almighty has said,
Oh, that's
no
right.
doubt.
Yeah.
Now here are these two unaccountable freaks. They came in together, they must go out together. He was born in 1835, and when Halley's Comet appeared in the sky, and he died in April 21st, 1910. So 75 years, he died. He predicted he would go out with Halley's Comet, and he did.
Weird.
And so that's like, I remember hearing like, oh, Mark Twain predicted his own death. Like, well, kind of. He just, was an old guy who smoked a lot, and probably lived a big life. I can't imagine with all his, he was touring, he was doing his readings and stuff like that.
He was like a rock star.
Yeah, I just can't imagine Mark Twain was living a monk's life on the road in the late 1800s. But okay, so the thing is, 1986, that's when Halley's Comet comes in, and 1835, 1910. There is another 1910. Let me find this. And it was from the April 1910 San Francisco Call. And April 5th, distress in Europe followed report of celestial visitor after Constantinople fell. Fantastic ideas have been entertained concerning comets from the earliest ages. The Middle Ages, if it were possible, had even more foolish ideas than antiquity. So they've been talking about people like worried about the comets, of like the omens of a comet, for years. And it goes, and so this is 110 years ago that they were talking about the exact same thing we're saying today. Halley's Comet appears in April of 1066, the moment that William the Conqueror invades England. So the Battle of Hastings happens, and that's where the Normans, who came over from Normandy, which was in France. So William the Conqueror was in Normandy. He brings his army over to England and then conquers England at the Battle of Hastings. And so then there's a Norman occupation of England, the Anglo-Saxons. But here's what I didn't realize about the Normans before. I just thought the Normans were French, and I'm like, oh man, the French must have been super tough in 1066. No, the Normans were Vikings who came down and took over that part of France.
Oh, okay.
So,
Wow.
yeah. So they were
Vikings.
Yeah. So Normandy is like they took over the French area, and I just thought that was interesting because I was like, oh man, there must be some badass French. Like, no, they were Vikings. I'm like, okay, that's legit.
They were.
That's legit.
Yeah, they were badass.
And so 1060, and so the reason I mentioned the Bayeux Tapestry is they make this tapestry of the Battle of Hastings, and it's famous. You can find it you can see it in the museum, and it shows the people in the battle, and it looks like Middle Ages art. Middle Ages art is kind of looks like seventh grade, like a seventh grader did it. But up there is Halley's Comet. It's in the Bayeux Tapestry. Like, you see the armies, you see the boats, you see the kings, and you see the comet. And so that's the portent that something big is going to happen. And of course, something very big happened to England that day. But
I'll say.
So, it's this idea. It shows up in, 1910. And, what's going to happen then? I don't know that this particular article said that there was an omen of anything bad, but they were saying be ready for something crazy happening, because things have followed Halley's Comet, and so the way that people think that the comet brings something. I mean, that's in Game of Thrones too. So,
yeah.
So if you guys remember the second season of Game of Thrones, or the second book, Clash of Kings, in the second book of Game of Thrones, it shows that there's a red comet in the sky, and that means something gnarly is going to happen. And so people are they're doing sacrifices to the red god. Melisandre is doing sacrifices to the red god on the beaches of Dragonstone, because the red comet's out, and that she takes that as her omen that this is your destiny, Stannis. And so the red comet, George even brings that in, and so the second season of Game of Thrones, they have the comet in the background, kind of thing, is that this is the predictor of this great war that's about to go down, and the War of the Five Kings that's kind of when it really gets into it, is in the second book of that series. Okay, a couple of from the live room. Sharon said that she met the head of the Vatican Observatory at Convergence.
Oh, wow!
Which is a very cool science fiction convention that Wendy and I played at in 2016. That was great.
What's MiniCon? That sounds fun.
Yes. And that was a fun one. So he was there. So he was a guest of honor, and then they took him to breakfast at Hell's Kitchen, which is in downtown Minneapolis.
Nice.
And really, Hell's Kitchen is
awesome.
known for the brunch. So that's the best. It's the best brunch.
Oh, there you go.
So it's really good. It's really good.
Cool.
And then so that's a lot of fun.
I'll say.
From Pam, my dad's mother was raised in St. Peter, Minnesota, and was a child when Halley's Comet came through in 1910. The local lumber yard caught on fire the night comet was first visible.
Oh my gosh.
Apparently, there was a bit of a panic.
I'll bet.
That's a scary.
Wow.
That's a great story, Pam.
That is. That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not.
I can't imagine a lumber yard
cool.
Going up in
like,
flames.
Nobody's like, right, high five on the lumber yard. First of all, St. Peter, Minnesota sounds like it's in the way out. So that's really interesting.
And the lumberyard catching on fire just makes me think of Peaks.
Yes. Right? Other places where people have been thinking that comets, had some kind of omen. If you go to 1811, there was the Great Comet of 1811, which this one is completely... they didn't even bother naming this one. Interestingly, they just called it 1811 F1. It was visible to the naked eye for around 260 days. And so,
that's amazing.
right, it's a super long time. And so they thought that was the omen for Napoleon, the Napoleonic Wars. So speaking of the French again, obviously they're coming in and causing trouble. So Napoleon obviously taking over half of Europe in 1811. That this comet was, this was the omen that something world changing was going to happen, and then something did after. Now, of course, we have the hindsight is 2020. You can be like, well, a comet came, and so we should have known because there was a comet. That's one of those correlation does not equal causation kind of things.
Right.
And then, of course, that also there was an earthquake that happened. The New Madrid earthquakes were some pretty intense earthquakes that happened on the New Madrid fault, which goes through the middle of the middle of the United States, up from Tennessee into Missouri. And so they were having earthquakes in the middle of the United States when that was going on. And so people were kind of afraid of that. So that was this idea that, oh my God, the comet's here, then the earthquake happens. And this is how humans think of things, right? So we think that there's going to be something, we connect the dots in a way that creates a narrative out of something. The comet's here, which is something completely unusual. Earthquakes are happening. There's a plague, and this,
big time.
And this is happening now. There's a comet going on. People are stuck inside. We don't know you know.
Yeah, the world is experiencing something very unusual altogether that
Right.
hasn't happened in a long time. So,
Well, think of the last time when something, when we were talking about the coronavirus in February, and we were like, okay, it's not really a bioweapon made by the Umbrella Corporation, and it's not a zombie virus that's going to take down the human race. Number one, we were wrong. It is a zombie virus that's destined to take down the human race. But number two, I didn't think it would be like a worldwide thing. You didn't think that all of a sudden, like every country in the world would stop.
right.
And this would be something. It's like, okay, well, maybe something like Italy. Oh my God, that's horrible. All these things are happening in Europe, the U.S. We're going to have to take a break. But having it be like this, the whole world stops. It just shows like what kind of world we're living in, how interconnected everybody is. And so that's the kind of thing that the comet is that is the omen of the world-changing event. And so that pastor in, wherever he is, Father Bob, Pastor Bob, or whatever he is, who thinks that the end of the world is coming because there's the comet and there's the plague and there's the Ring of Fire eclipse. That's just not that weird. Like,
No, and it's so easy to like draw, patterns. You could come like when the year 2000, remember Y2K? Like everybody was saying, "Oh, this happened and this happened and it's all leading up to the end of the world." And well, that didn't happen.
No,
we're still here.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, Y2K was a great example of, here's what was pretty interesting about it, I thought, is that instead of it being a supernatural event, like the things about Y2K made it into an event that seemed plausible, right? So instead of saying
the technology part of it, you mean?
Yes, exactly. So you're saying, okay, the year 2000 is coming, and they didn't, remember how we've been putting only 2 digits at the end of our years for the past, since digital years started? Well, this is why we're in trouble.
Because 40 years ago, we didn't anticipate that computers would last beyond.
Right. And the grid's going to go down, and banks are going to, and the currency is going to go crazy. And so Y2K seemed totally believable, not necessarily believable, but it didn't seem like, okay, as soon as this arbitrary 2000 number happens, God is going to, wreak hell on the planet.
Right. Or like a giant asteroid's going to come out of nowhere, and it's, remember all the Armageddon, that kind of thing, like, because it was predicted in the calendar or whatever it was.
Well, I don't know if people want to live in apocalyptic times or people are they think they will live in apocalyptic times. And that's been something we've talked about before on the podcast, because people have this tendency of thinking that the end of the world is going to come in their lifetime. That was even in the Bible when they were working the book of Revelation. They're like, oh, no, Jesus is coming back. Like, anytime now. Any time now, Jesus. Like, they thought he was going to come back before, they didn't think he was going to wait 2,000 years. So, like, people have this millennial belief that the end is near. And so that's why, people get into cults and things like that. And that's why when you see a comet in the sky, you get this idea like, oh, it's the end. I think about that. We had a roommate, Wendy, Max, who, he went to school for brain surgery, literally. Like, he is a brain surgeon. I think he ended up now, he's just a general surgeon, but he wanted to be a brain surgeon. And so when somebody says like this guy's going to be a brain surgeon, no, he is a brain surgeon, like literally brain surgeon. Like, we used to have the cats from the medical school, like the frozen cats that they would like dig open or whatever, like in the basement. I don't know. We had like 8 of them too. Like, I don't know if they just had a big project. It was disgusting. But we had those cats in the basement. And so we're like talking about stuff one night, and he goes, I think the end of the world's going to come in our lifetime. And just, I forgot what we were talking about. Maybe we were talking about the movie Deep Impact coming out because our buddy like had a credit on it, right? Like our buddy Andy had a credit on Deep Impact, and this is the first time like one of our friends actually had a credit. Like if you watched the movie, like we always watch the credits because nerds watch the credits, and you'd watch the credits and you'd see his name in the. This is the first time like a friend,
and we did, and we clapped.
Right, we clapped theater. The people who clapped for Andy going, yeah, Andy. But he had a
like that's
credit
so cool,
on Deep
Andy.
Impact. So we were probably talking about it. He was probably like, oh yeah, the end of the world's coming. It's gonna come in our lifetime. I believe it. And that was the first time I'm like, oh my God, like if Max believes it and he's going to be a brain surgeon, what's an idiot musician like me what's going to happen to me?
Nice.
So it just was an interesting thing, but people have that millennial thing. Like in our live room, Mark, Y2K kept me up all night. Well, and
yeah, absolutely.
Think about the Art Bell show back at the Millennium. Right? It was all Y2K. You know, Art Bell was always like
radio.
Right? Everything was apocalyptic.
And he was totally off the grid, so he was obviously, eating what he was serving up. Like he was ready for it.
Right. Like the Kingdom of
Smart
Nye.
Guy.
He was in his trailer in Pahrump, Nevada. On his own grid. So he was fine. We were going to be toast. And then, that was even the first Family Guy episode. Is like that Y2K comes true and the whole world blows up, right? That's the that they showed after the Super Bowl, so people believed it.
Yep.
Another thing about the comets too. You talk about people thinking about the end of the world in the late 1990s. We talk about Hale Bopp. Well, that's Heaven's Gate. That's the Heaven's Gate cult. So you're seeing this massive comet in the sky, the Hale Bopp comet. It's visible for so long. In fact, when you say that the Great Comet of 1811 was visible for 260 days, I believe Hale Bopp was visible for longer.
Okay.
So yes, we did see it. We just don't remember it because the aliens wiped our memories. But the thing is that. In the Heaven's Gate cult, they were telling, that's what, Marshall Applewhite, because his wife was, or not his wife, but the partner, like they had those names for each, like Doe and Zed or something like that.
Oh, gosh.
And Marshall Applewhite, after she died, he didn't want to keep going, and he kept on saying the end of the world is coming, and the end of the world's finally going to come, but these aliens are coming in the trail of this comet. And they're in the wake of it, like you were talking about the tail, right? The tail is 1 million kilometers wrong. Thank you, Canadian Wendy, for helping out with that.
I know I didn't do the conversion. Sorry.
1 million kilometers.
6,200 miles. 62. Wait.
1 million kilometers.
620 million kilometers. Miles.
Metric Wendy here. But that's the thing.
Well, it's a 5K diameter, so.
Okay, fair enough.
It's nice and easy round number.
So 3.11 miles.
Right.
And
give or take.
And so it's the UFO in the wake of the comet that's going to pick people up, which people still think that is happening today. There was somebody who just released a YouTube video. Oh my God. And it had like 1 million views. And it was like, no, there's a UFO in NEOWISE's wake.
Oh, gosh.
But Wendy, you've seen it. There it is. Right?
True.
Right?
Yeah. With my own eyes.
Right? You guys have seen the UFO in the wake of NEOWISE's comet.
Well, let's get scientific again here for a moment.
Yes, please, Doctor. Please, Dr. Stotz.
A comet consists of basically gas and rock, or dust, gas and dust, basically. So, there's some ice, there's some frozen various compounds, but it's mostly a big chunk of ice and rock. And then the tail is the dust. And usually the tail, actually, if you look at the really nice pictures, there's kind of two tails. And one of them is like the gas and the other one is the dust. So, yeah. So I don't know where a spacecraft would fit in there. It would have to be very advanced technology. And I'm not saying it's not possible, but I feel
Everything
like
is
the
possible
technology
with the
is that
Space
advanced.
Brothers, Wendy.
And if their technology is that advanced, they wouldn't need a
Right, they
comet.
just show up.
Unless, well, maybe they're using the orbit as like propulsion or whatever. But
Well, don't forget about comets, though, is that there's a couple of different things that I think are super interesting. The idea of panspermia, that you talk about all that's like all the ice on the comet and everything. If microbes could be frozen, or tardigrades, right? Tardigrades are the toughest thing in the universe. Besides me, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like tardigrades, that those tiny things are the toughest things in the universe. They can live in the vacuum of space, right? They could live on the comet. Could other microbes live on the comet? And then when the Earth passes through the tail, it's those microbes then get into our primordial soup. And that's the idea of panspermia, that life came from another planet. Or another place, because the microbes came in the tail of the comet. That also could be, there's a couple of scientists that just put out a paper that Earth could be, I guess not we could be inseminating the universe. Through our own right.
That's naughty.
Right. Obviously, we could be turkey basting the universe with the comet. So we're going through as we pass through the comet's tail, it can collect microbes from us. And are those microbes going off into other planets that might be ready for life? So it's that.
But it's not close enough.
No, this particular. So NEOWISE or whatever might not be close enough, but other comets have been.
Have like within our atmosphere?
Well, where we've passed through the tail of it or whatever. So not that the comet, but like microbes leaving Earth. Not that the comet like hit us or anything, because I don't think the comet hit us since the dinosaurs.
It would have to at least come within the atmosphere,
right?
If it's gonna pick up anything,
pick up any
from
microbes.
Us,
okay, I'll look.
Pick up any? I don't know. I mean,
well, I tell you what, I got the article. It was in
couple of band dorks sitting here talking about
live science, January 28th, 2020. Okay, millions of billions of years ago. Millions or billions, sorry, not millions of billions.
Billions and billions.
Billions and billions. Back when the solar system was more crowded, a giant comet grazed the outer reaches of our atmosphere. It was moving fast, several tens of miles above the Earth's surface, too high to burn up as a fireball, but low enough that the atmosphere slowed it down a little bit. Extremely hardy microbes, like me, were floating up there in its path, and some of those bugs survived the collision with the ball of ice. These microbes ended up embedded deep within the comet's porous surface, protected from the radiation of deep space, as the comet rocketed away from Earth and eventually out of the solar system entirely. Tens of thousands, maybe millions of years passed before the comet ended up in another solar system with habitable planets. Eventually, the object crashes, deposits the microbes, a few of them still living, and sets up a new outpost for earthly life in the universe. Interstellar panspermia. That is the theory from Amir Siraj and the astrophysicist from Harvard that we talked about on the show all the time, the space pancake man himself, Avi Loeb. And he put that out at the beginning of the year, this idea that Earth was the center of panspermia. So that's, what got me to thinking.
Well,
about
sorry,
that.
Rest of the universe.
Right. Sorry.
If you're going to turn out like us.
Eventually, rest of the universe. We're going to screw up your planet too. So this is saved on the NASA website when Hale Bopp came in 1997. So this is March 24th, 1997. And from the University of Washington. Humans have feared comets, other celestial phenomena through the ages. When Julius Caesar was killed, this is from Woody Sullivan, professor of astronomy. First of all, Woody Sullivan is the coolest name in the world.
It's a character name.
Right. My name's Woody Sullivan, and I'm a professor of astronomy. And he's like, comets have a long history, usually as omens and bearers of bad news. But on the other hand, the death of Julius Caesar was marked by a comet, and this was taken by the Romans as a sign of his divinity. And Napoleon made a fuss about the appearances of comets and some of his early military victories. Awful might be a better way to describe the impact of comets. It is often taken to mean dread, but it can also mean greatness. That's from Woody Sullivan. So, dread, so awe, this idea, awe, we use the word awesome just to be like, yeah, dude, that skateboard trick was totally awesome.
And without me, it would just be also.
Correct. Thank you, Wendy. So we have this idea that awesome just means something that's great, but it just means it's something that blows our mind. Literally, like that's the awe is our mind was blown.
Awe-inspiring.
Yes. So this is an interesting article. It continues. Pope Calixius III, back to the Vatican here, excommunicated Halley's Comet in 1456 as a, quote, instrument of the devil, unquote. And in the following century, the appearances of comets were seen by Inca and Aztec astrologers as signs of divine wrath, leading to the downfall of those empires to Spain. The 1835-36 return of Halley's was said to have caused a large fire in New York, a Zulu massacre of Boers in South Africa, and the Mexican slaughter of Texans at the Alamo. In 1910, charlatans sold comet pills and comet insurance, and a number of fearful Americans tried to board up their houses as protection against poisonous cyanide gas as the Earth passed through the tail of Halley's Comet. French physician in 1528 describes Halley's Comet. He goes, "This comet was so horrible, so frightful." I don't even know what I'm trying to do. This comet was so... I can't even do a French accent right now. This comet was so horrible, so frightful, and it produced such great terror that some died of fear and others fell sick. It appeared to be of extreme length, and it was the color of blood. Well, that's the red comet from Game of Thrones right there. So when you're looking at the historical record for comets, and now we have this one in 1997 that lasts for, a couple of 100 days, and Hale-Bopp is so massive that we see it and we don't remember it because obviously the Heaven's Gate aliens.
We took it for granted.
We did. Right, we did take it for granted. But I do remember seeing a comet with my naked eye. But I was naked a lot in 1997. But it doesn't always mean that they were bad. In the 17th century, Europeans believed that comets affected weather, and they helped produce superior wines. Comets were believed to cause warmer temperatures and thus higher sugar concentrations in wine grapes.
Well, that's pleasant.
That is pleasant.
That's something nice.
And I think that sounds exciting. So there was a songwriter who wrote the Comet of 1832, and this was the song he wrote. Some people thought that this was about Halley's Comet, but it comes out in a book of French songs in 1858. And in the song it goes, "God is sending a comet against us. We shall not escape this great impact. I feel our planet crumbling already. Go quickly to confession, you timorous souls. Let us be done with it. The world is old enough. The world is old enough." Wow. So
that's fairly
they
dark.
were writing goth songs back in the Comet of 1832. Timorous means easily frightened, lacking courage, showing or suffering from nervousness, fear, or a lack of confidence. Because I did not know what that meant. So, but I just thought it was interesting. People writing songs about comets a long time ago.
That is cool.
Yes.
It's a very inspiring thing.
So, Matt says, speaking of Hale-Bopp, he's wearing his blue Nikes, but he's still here on Earth.
Nice.
So he has not been picked up.
Matt got some awesome photos.
Yes, he did. Matt got some wonderful photos of NEOWISE.
Comet.
Matt, we'd love if you shared
So
a couple of
cool.
those in the See Another Side Patreon group.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure everybody else would
awesome.
love to see them too, because they're awesome. Now, I thought your photos were pretty good. You and Scott took some good photos too.
Thanks. I couldn't believe my phone. I really
Yeah.
like my phone has this astrophotography setting, and I just pop that right on
Look at
there,
that
and like
spaceship.
boom,
Nice.
and yeah.
Speaking,
But Scott had the fancy camera,
yes.
and with that you can get a lot really cooler.
Speaking of the tale of the comet, um, well, we're taking a live version of a song tonight of, our song Stardust. And we recorded this at Driftless Books in Viroqua, Wisconsin, a couple years back. And we were talking about Scott and taking pictures last night. He took the live video of this and it was a lot of fun. And then when we come back, didn't we have a couple? We had a couple of weird synchronicities that night as well. And so I think we'll talk about that when we come back. But let's jump to, let's pretend we're in 2017. So my hair is much shorter. And let's go to Driftless Books in Viroqua, Wisconsin for a little bit of Stardust.
We awoke at the end of an era. We came to life in the footnotes of time. We are stardust, make
I'm wearing the same
black square.
I'm wearing the same vest. Oh.
Orphans of the sons that have died. We are created, but we are the makers. We are lucid inside the dream time. We are the alphas and the omegas. We are what we choose to define. Love is the only law, and it cannot be killed. We are the stars, we are of stars. Love what you will. Love is the only law, and it cannot be killed. We are the stars, we are of stars. Love what you will. And the seraphim will sanctify the particles that illuminate the sky. Ooh, and the seraphim will sanctify particles that illuminate the sky. For what was once will always be a universe inside of me, and a magician that wants to be free. To be free. We awoke at the end of an era. We came to life in the footnotes of time. We are stardust made conscious and breathing, orphans of the sons that have died. Love is the only law, and it cannot be killed. We are the stars, we are of stars. Love what you will. Love is the only law, and it cannot be killed. We are the
All right, that's Stardust from Driftless Books in
I love that
Viroqua.
place.
Yes, that was a really sweet place. What was interesting about that night, so on the way home, the reason I felt like it was a synchronicity is because a few days earlier, I'd done an interview with Mike Cleland and Robbie Graham, and they just worked on this book called UFOs, Reframing the Debate. And Mike Cleland was really into owls. And so he wrote an entire book on owls. Let me look it up here. Mike Cleland, owls. And it's just owls, a symbolism, the messengers. Owls, synchronicity, and the UFO abductee. And his whole thing is on the people who are seeing owls. If you see owls in a lot of places or whatever, it might be you were abducted by aliens, or how owls seem to be the kind of animal that people are seeing who later on remember alien abduction experiences.
Like Whitley Strieber.
Exactly. And right, communion.
And like in Twin Peaks, that's a huge theme.
Right, the owls are not what they seem. And then I looked up some stuff on owls, and it's this whole idea is that the owls were the symbol of good fortune. And then if something, if it's a bad omen, much like the comet in the sky, right? Much like our alien comet right there. It's a bad omen if you hit an owl or something bad happens to it. And what happens,
If you hit an owl.
what happens on the way, from Driftless Books. And so we got home at, it was late. This is September 16th, 2017. I watched Wonder Woman that day.
Nice.
And then, so on the way home from Driftless Books, I was driving between Highway 14 and Highway 19 in Wisconsin. There was a path on the road. A raccoon came flying across the street. 30 seconds later, a possum runs across the street. 30 seconds later, an owl flew across the street, and I hit it with the van. So it was,
I remember that.
It was 3 animals within 1 minute. Or, I'm sorry, within a minute and a half. And that's what made it terrifying. Yeah. It was like
and
I took the van to a zoo.
To be fair, we were driving through a very, very rural part of Wisconsin on a highway that's very dark, lonely highway.
Yes.
But it was just the fact that, and typically, close calls with deers on that highway. Deer.
Close call with deers, you know what I mean?
Don't be hitting those deers now. But yeah, there's a lot of close calls with deer. But that night, what was weird was, like you said, the proximity and timing.
Well, we had a good show. It was fun. And then we drove home, and Viroqua was maybe an hour and 45 minutes from Madison, kind of thing, as the owl flies.
But there's no big highway connecting it, really. Right. It's pretty.
If you're going straight, you can go down 94. You can take an interstate and then go off like a half an hour, or you can go straight on this rural highway that was probably an old Native American path, and
take your chances with the deer.
And so we did. And this is about 1:00 in the morning, and we're just going between Highway 14 and Highway 19, and all of a sudden it all comes out. Like it's the raccoon. Oh no, the raccoon. Whoop. Then the possum. Oh my God, I don't even know if I said his name right. Whoop. Then the owl. Slam. I hit him. So the van goes straight into a zoo that night.
It was like, in a way, it was kind of good because we were all awake after the raccoon. It was like, oh, okay, you get the adrenaline rush.
Yeah, it was all jacked up.
Oh, geez, okay. But it kind of made you think like, okay, were all these animals being chased by something, coming from that direction or whatever, or what?
Right.
Why are they all running?
Lisa says, that is a rural area. We go that way when visiting Iowa.
Oh, yeah. They were at,
I was going to say, you were at that show, Lisa.
At the Driftless.
At the Driftless, you guys were there.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, how you hope you're doing well. So that was that just was an interesting thing because it made me, I'd never thought about spirit animals or anything like that, or or just the symbolism of animals in general. And that really got me thinking. It got me a little nervous for a couple of days that I had slammed an owl, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be in trouble now.
Well, you also, Mike,
Yes.
your track record with the van is not good
Oh,
because remember that time you hit the turkey?
I did hit a turkey. Yeah, me and foul. I'm foul with foul when I'm driving a
They're
van.
large fowl too, like
Yeah.
big
Big
beasties.
Big son of bitches. Noah must have parked the ark. Right. He parked it right in front of the van. Like Noah came to
Right.
Wisconsin.
We went hurling through there and disturbed all the animals.
He
And,
some brandy. You know, it might have been Bigfoot.
Oh.
Bigfoot might have been. He might have been chasing him out of the forest. That was like it was like a thing though when you're talking about how like animals escaping somewhere. Look out for peacocks.
what? Really?
I don't know. I haven't hit any, but and you know, we didn't talk about Night of the Comet tonight, which is, I mean, I called it Night of the Comet because I just love that movie. It's a classic horror comedy kind of thing. It's like 30 some years old, and it's Earth passing through the tail of the comet, and it's like a zombie style movie, comet zombie style movie. So make sure
Fun.
that you guys check out Night of the Comet. But also,
Okay.
there was a great movie that we've talked about on the show before called Life Force. And that came out during Halley's Comet. And it's the idea that Halley's Comet did have a UFO behind it. And it was space vampires. And so we talked about it on the show because
Sounds
it's directed by Tobe Hooper, who also directed
That's
Poltergeist.
right.
And it's based on a book written by a man named Colin Wilson and Gary Lackman, the paranormal thinker and ex-bass player of Blondie, who we've also had on the show. He is Colin Wilson's biggest fan. And Space Vampires was like Colin Wilson trying to write like I think an H.P. Lovecraft style story. And it ended up becoming Life Force, which when I was 10 years old, I thought it was the scariest shit ever. And it's this idea that, you know, there's these space vampires, and then as they land, it's just this naked woman that walks around and sucks the life force out of everybody, and then turns them into a vampire that can suck the life force out of other people. And this happens all through London. Patrick Stewart's in it right before he gets Star Trek. So it's great to see Patrick Stewart. And Mathilde May, a French actress, is the one that plays the naked space vampire. And it sounds silly, and it is silly, but it's really scary and it's really well done. But it's this idea that Halley's Comet's bringing something along with it. And so,
Gotcha.
you know, when we have this stuff through time, it's backed up. These omens are backed up by fiction. You know, like when can these kind of beliefs, ominous, speaking of omen, these ominous beliefs actually lead to damage? Well, that's the Heaven's Gate cult. That's the millennial cults. And then they think that the only way, and we were talking about cults a couple of weeks ago, the only way you get out is killing yourself. You know, that, oh, don't worry, you'll go to heaven, kind of thing. And so that's when it does become dangerous and not just, you know, goofy naked space vampire fun. But that's the kind of thing. So comets, Wendy, you guys had fun watching the comet. Matt's obviously seen the comet, and you guys out there, hope you're taking a look out there. Keep, in the words of Jack Horkheimer, the star hustler, he's the lead astronomer from the planetarium of like the Miami Planetarium, and he was always super entertaining. I used to record Arthur C. Clarke's World of Strange Powers when I was a little kid, and because they would have that on at the end of the night on PBS, and so I'd leave the recording on for a few minutes because they would have Star Hustler on afterwards. And Jack, he had stuff on Halley's Comet, of course, because that's when he was doing it. And he would always say at the end of it, and remember, keep looking up. And you guys should keep looking up too. At Patreon is, if you guys are enjoying this, and I know a lot of you guys out there are Patreons, and once again, you all get a 1, 2, 3 oofta for all the, making our lives immeasurably better and helping out. And being a part of a community that makes all this fun. I mean, it's it's easy playing a show at a
Love
bar.
it.
You're hanging out with people, you're talking and stuff like that. But now we actually get to since we're not doing that, having people to hang out with is the greatest.
Absolutely.
And so, but Patreon is the group we've made around people who want to hang out and have content like this and support it. And we absolutely appreciate it. So thank you so much. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, well, then all you got to do is look above to patreon.com/sunspotmusic. Now, our buddy Scott from What's Your Ghost Story, he's going to be doing something fun tomorrow night. So make sure you check out facebook.com/What's Your Ghost Story.
Yes, at 8:00 he's doing a live. So for your live entertainment paranormal needs, you can check out Scott's live cast, and he's going to be this week. He's talking about window locations, which are places where people see ghosts, cryptids, and UFOs. So if you've ever encountered a window location, or any good stories, pop into his live feed. He's always excited to hear from everybody on that.
And you're going to find that at facebook.com/What's Your Ghost Story. So once you're done going to patreon.com/sunspotmusic tomorrow night at 8, make sure you check that out. And then Wendy and I will be back with Ben on Thursday for Thirsty Thursday. And speaking of, next month we are going to do a Paranormal Thursday, Thirsty Tuesday. We're going to do another switch up again at the end of the month.
Ooh,
and I had an interesting synchronicity today. So first of all, to preview future events, next week we're going to have the podcasters from the Casual Preppers on the show, and I'm going to link their Bigfoot documentary on YouTube in the See You on the Other Side Patreon, so you guys can check it out before we talk to them, because they searched for Bigfoot, and we're going to have them on the show and talk about it. And at the end of August 28th, speaking of Bigfoot, there's a new Bigfoot book that's edited and put together by our friend Joshua Cutchin.
Yay!
And Josh will be on the show. And the funniest thing is, today when I'm on my way to the gym, I'm looking at my notifications, whatever, on my way out. So the first notification is YouTube, and it's somebody who is listening to an interview we had with Josh Cutchin, and he goes, "I love this interview. Will you be talking to him about his Bigfoot book?" The notification below, and this is no shit, I should have screen capped it, but I was too busy, already late for the gym, was...
You were pumping iron.
I was too busy getting ready to get huge, you know what I mean? I had to work out. Right below it was Josh Cutchin saying, "Hey, the 28th sounds perfect. Let's plan for it then."
Wow.
So it's just a weird thing.
That's
Somebody was requesting an interview with Josh Cutchin, listening to it. Like, this is just a brand new person who came to our YouTube, requested it, and like right below was his answer. And I was just like, well, this is meant to be, son.
Swing.
So we're looking forward to that. So we have a lot of fun coming up in the next month. Next week, Casual Preppers. And if you guys have ideas for any ideas
topics
that we can talk about. So this is kind of like, so in the past we've done like just a podcast where we put it out on like the RSS feed and stuff like that in iTunes, and we're enjoying doing these live conversations on Tuesday night and working on music and stuff like that for Thursdays. And so we're going to keep this format for a little while. So if you have topics that you want us to talk about, or you want to contribute and send in some articles and stuff, please just put that in the Facebook group so we can hang out. And we're looking forward to seeing you guys on Thursday. Make sure you check out Scott's thing tomorrow. And everybody out there, we love you, and we will see you on the other side.
Thanks, everybody.
Later.